Recap of our top story. The South African economy is now in recession. That's according to data released by Stats SA today. They basically say that the economy contracted by 1.4% in the fourth quarter, and that follows a contraction of 0.8% in the third quarter and two consecutive contractions in the economy, quarters in the economy equates to a recession. I'm joined in studio now by Ian Cruickshanks, who is an economist and an expert in this area. Thanks very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Good to be with you again.
Super. So this is the second recession that has happened under President Cyril Ramaphosa's watch. It's very bad news indeed.
Indeed, from every possible standpoint. First of all, it confirms the economy. We must stop talking about a growth rate. It's at a shrinkage rate. And this is really serious. We're keen on capital expansion, on creating jobs, on creating new business, on providing revenue for government to develop the infrastructure of the economy. You know, this can't be done without massively ramping up new borrowings, and we're going to find that our name is not that good in the world's capital markets. It's a serious setback.
So estimates for economic growth in 2019 have ranged around 0.3%, somewhere there.
Yes.
What does that then do to the total year growth if we decline by 1.4% in the fourth quarter?
Well, if you look at it the year on year, that may be marginally up, but it's the trend that counts. The trend is now dipping over and dipping down for the third time, I think, in 20 years. You know, heck, it just shows how long it's been since we've had this sort of dire consequences.
In terms of the ratings agency, you know, Moody's, we've been worried about what they're going to do. We had a budget which was, the finance minister said it wasn't an austerity budget, but in some ways it was, because he's looking to make serious cuts, not only in terms of public sector wages, but also in terms of deliverables, basic deliverables for our expenditure on our priorities. And then, of course, on top of that, our budget deficit is around 6.8% of GDP.
Huge.
And Moody's is watching. So now we are in recessionary environment. What does that then do to our assessment, our grade assessment, come March the 27th?
They've told us already. They said in the past some months ago, if the South African economy slips into recession, it will be downgraded. That was, if it happens, it would happen. And I believe that this has now happened. I think we have to prepare for the fact. In fact, I think we've been preparing for the fact that a downgrading was imminent. And I think that that is why we've seen our high capital market rates, high cost of borrowing, and all these things, and low willingness, low confidence, low willingness. Just look at the fixed capital formation. There are no new factories built. There are no new sets of machinery going into new factories to create jobs. We've got job destruction. It's a shrinkage in the economy. We can't expect for anything better than a downgrade from the international agencies.
Of course, it doesn't help that we have external problems, you know, coronavirus with, you know, bodies not being sure what impact it's going to have on global economic growth. And because we're such a small economy that's so dependent on the rest of the world, you know, that is a factor that we need to, you know, bear in mind. But what is it that we're doing wrong as South Africa Inc.? Why is it year in, year out, we keep on talking about a negative outlook for the economy? What do we need to do right?
Well, certainly it is a hostile environment. Why is it hostile? Well, Mr. Ramaphosa goes out saying South Africa is open for business. But we haven't got many tools to conduct business, and this is a real problem. I think what we have to admit is that if we say we're open for business, but we make that hostile environment extend into the domestic factors as well. We make it difficult to start a new company. We make it very difficult to handle wage negotiations. We cannot provide a constant, cost-effective electricity supply. Heck, with these circumstances, why should anybody want to start a new business? The risk is just too high. We have a high-risk environment. That is what's got to be changed. And it's a question of efficiency, building up confidence, and that's at a very low ebb. And I think if we keep on having governments saying they're going to conduct more operations on expropriation without compensation, who wants to start a new business when any moment government can come along and say, I like the look of that, I'll have 10% of it. And next year they say, oh, it's looking better, I'll take 20% this time, and no, I'm not going to pay. You know, this is what can only be described as a hostile environment. Government has got to understand that the private sector and government should be partners, not considered as the enemy. The private sector wants to work with government. Just don't keep moving the goalposts.
Policy certainty.
So that's what makes it so difficult. So what must be done? Set standard, rigid, reasonable negotiations.
Ian, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, as always. That was Ian Cruickshanks. We're going to hand over now to my colleague Nzinga.